I will not stop saying this, that I have been so completely impressed with Sabrina Ionescu. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
always thought that she was a star caliber player. Unfortunately, her career didn't begin like many people thought because she was facing injuries in the beginning. There was also the pandemic her rookie year.
Amazing melanin in the WNBA, right?
It is.
Predominantly black league, you know what I'm saying? And these ladies, right, are showing how to get it done in the second half of the season. I mean, the Liberty, they've already clinched a playoff spot. Terrika's Connecticut Sun, they clinched one. They finally got one over on New York in Barclays, might I add you, okay?
Yeah.
And then the Minnesota Lynx, they're probably playing the best basketball out of everybody. And I'm curious from, Terrika, your perspective, what has it been like to see the Connecticut Sun adjust with Marina Mabrey and really go to a different level that they haven't had maybe in years prior, or even just, prior to the second half of the season before the trade?
Yeah, well, their 3-point shooting has absolutely increased since adding Marina Mabrey, which essentially was the point, right? Like, the reason why they brought her there is because they wanted to give their backcourt a boost as it relates to being able to shoot deep threes, and they have done that. And she, like, really shot the ball well against Chicago, which is really a habit of hers. She has a tendency of playing incredibly well against her former team. She did the same thing against Dallas last year. I tried to tell everybody, I was like, Marina is going to be the difference maker in this matchup, because sis ain't trying to go out like that against the team she used to play for. And sure enough, she was like 4 for 5 from 3. So there was that. But with all of that being said, it's been fun, but it's redundant, right? We have seen this show before from the Connecticut Sun. We've seen them clinch before. We've seen them be in a position to win before. And again, it always feels like they are a bridesmaid and never a bride. So we're hoping that this year will be different, right? Like, the window is obviously closing on this team. There are some contracts that are going to be up very soon. They're not oblivious to where they are, to their age, to how long they've been in this organization. Like, they're not stupid. They know what it is, right? So there is certainly an urgency that you can feel in that locker room. And I think Marina has embraced that, right? Being on a team that truly has a legitimate shot at winning a championship.
I'm just tired of players leaving Chicago and going somewhere else and doing well. I'm sick of it.
Are you surprised?
I'm not. I feel like my city is cursed, because every time a player that has any level of impact is traded from a Chicago team, and I'm talking about men's or women's, they seem to go to the next place and flourish. Mabrey was bananas on defense when she was in Chicago. She was actually fairly streaky when she was in Chicago, and that ponytail of hers needed some work. Now, all of a sudden, she's with the Sun and she's turning up. I'm not surprised, but by golly, I'm sick of it. And it also speaks to the system. I mean, certain players thrive in certain systems, so you have to give it up to, obviously the Connecticut Sun coaching staff for making sure that she got into this system and got in well. But I'm a little frustrated just on a personal side, because why couldn't you do this for the Sky Child? We were waiting. We were rooting for you. And I'm just going to be honest. She was one of the most frustrating people for me to watch in the first half of the season. Literally, I needed like an antidepressant or something to help with anxiety for her, because she was taking me out of here.
Look, I'm with you on that. She was very hot and cold and streaky as a shooter with Chicago. And her role was different, right? Where she had to facilitate in addition to being a shooter. When she's on the Connecticut Sun, and Terrika knows this better than anybody, she don't have to do all that. She does not have to have a bigger responsibility. She got to shoot, you know what I'm saying? Create spacing for AT, DeWanna Bonner, Ty Harris. And that's all.
That's it.
And then again, she has improved her defense. Like, she's never been known to be a great defender, but I've seen moments where she's really applied the pressure. And what I thought was really key, I think it was in the Chicago game, where they had not just Dejanay Carrington in the game at the end of the game, but also Marina Mabrey. The fact that they could be on the floor together at end of game situations when Mabrey was coming off the bench, lets me know that Coach Stephanie White has a lot of trust in Marina to be at least serviceable on the defensive end when the game is tight. So, yeah, I understand your frustration, Sharí, but
I'm tired of it. And good for her. I mean, just from an athlete's perspective, you want to be somewhere where you can not only be most useful, but you can be happy, and you don't have to necessarily take on added things that take away from what you really do well. So happy for her that she's in a space where she can do what she does well, like you are saying, without all the other ancillary responsibilities. But man, it's disappointing. And Chicago has certainly taken a hit in adjusting since she's been absent from that lineup. So this is just me as a Chicago fan wanting the best for them. But you all are spot on.
Yeah, I get that. I get that 100%, Sharí. I really do. But you nailed it, Chris. Just her role is different. And you wasn't coming to Connecticut and not playing OD.
Right.
You take a listen to let you walk up in there and you ain't finna play no D. Oh, you gonna play some defense today. Like, that's bottom line. Today, you playing some D. So, yeah, that was a given.
And I really love how they embraced Marina Mabry, right? When she first came to the Sun. I think that was key, especially, All-Star Weekend really helped with the transition. Because literally, I think it was like the day after their game against Vegas, Marina gets traded. And then, you got All-Star Weekend. So a whirlwind. But how about New York Liberty, they clearly took, and I know people have been talking about it, they clearly took Kelsey Plum's words about how, this team doesn't care about each other to heart. And they have turned the page in terms of their chemistry and just their ability to step up when other players are absent, whether it's Sabrina Ionescu or Courtney Vandersloot when she was out, but not Jelani Hamilton. Everybody understands their role much better, okay? And what I'm thinking about is, do we think this Liberty team is going to be unstoppable when the playoffs come? Because it's one thing to do it in the regular season. We saw them give it to the Aces last year, and again, more years together now this year. But do we expect them to be unstoppable, Terrika?
No, I don't expect them to be unstoppable. I mean, I just watched them on Saturday against the other team that clinched, the Connecticut Sun. And you can still see that they're still dealing with some injuries. We still haven't seen Jelani Hamilton, who to me is one of the best two-way players in the game, have an impact because she's still been sidelined. She was dressed, so that's encouraging, but definitely need to see her back out there. And I still think that there are moments where Breanna Stewart and Jonquel Jones are not consistently engaged with each other. And you can't have a successful New York Liberty team when it's dependent on one or the other. You need them both to be locked in. No matter how well you can see Stewie play, she can win you some games. When it comes to winning championships, we saw that last season. You can't have one without the other. When we saw Jonquel and Stewie locked in, they won game. The game that they should have been locked in step, it was more Jonquel than it was Stewie, and they ended up losing the series. So I think that that's something that we still need to see. And I know we're going to get into this, but I think at this exact moment, like today, as of this taping, the Minnesota Lynx are the best team in the WNBA right now. So and let's look at the path of New York. If we were to say, hey, today, this is where the playoffs are going to start, New York would have to see Las Vegas, assuming that they both win. If, Vegas were to win their round and New York would win their round, which currently would be against Chicago if the playoffs started today, you would see a Vegas-New York matchup in the second round, in the semifinals. That works perfect for Connecticut, assuming they would win their matchup. But I'm saying, do you feel confident in a series that against New York and Vegas, that New York would win or that Vegas would win? Like, I don't feel confident about either one.
Either
I think
way,
they both
absolutely.
Exactly. So to answer your question, and the long way of answering your question is no, like there's no guarantee with this team for me. There is the only team I would feel comfortable guaranteeing a spot in the finals today would be Minnesota.
Totally agree, Terrika. I don't have too much to add behind what you said. And it's interesting, like with the New York, even with the Aces, I can't count them out. But in terms of expecting them to dominate, absolutely not. And it's interesting, you know, I expected some corners to be turned in terms of dominance from both of them. And that hasn't really happened, which is interesting. We also seen some close games where I was like, guys, you shouldn't just be winning by a few points here or there. Even the Aces game versus Chicago. Shout out to Chicago, but winning on a buzzer beater at this point in the season, I'm a little concerned. So I don't know who we're gonna get. Obviously, veteran leadership always plays a role in terms of being able to pull out games, but dominance from either team, I don't see it. I do see, you know, a Sabrina on the New York side, Sabrina Ionescu just rising to the occasion. She seems to do that. But like Terrika said, I mean, there has to be some consistency between Jonquel and Stewie for them to make sense, you know, in a finals. I don't see it happening. But I think this also just speaks to the league itself getting better. You know, some of these other teams are just getting better. The Lynx are, and they have a history, you know, for the most part, of being a good, solid team. I love the way they play. Their cohesion has always been very impressive to me this entire way, and they haven't fallen off the wagon. So when we think of a team that's consistently doing what they do and winning basketball games, like Terrika said, you got to shout them out. So I think they're the team to fear, just simply because they're consistent and they have bought into their formula. Other teams, like I'll go for the Aces, for example, they bought into their legacy. They bought into their history of winning. But in terms of currently where we stand, who are you all? What have you bought into besides Asia being the greatest player in the world? And I'm just saying, like, I have a little bit of disappointment around their guard play at times. I think there's some inconsistencies there. So I don't know. I'm excited though. I'm the Sun. You know, Terrika, I've been saying this from the beginning. It's a part of me that just wants to see them get over the hump. I like an over the hump story. I think they've put in so much work. They've made some good moves in terms of their front office and getting the pieces they need. And I think it would be good for the league. I think the league needs a team like the Connecticut Sun to rise to the occasion and go all the way. We've seen the Lynx win it. We've seen the Aces win it. We've seen New York win it. Like, we need, just for me as a fan, but also somebody who wants to see this league continue to grow, I think we need to see something like that. So I'm praying for the Sun. They are in my prayers. And of course, Chicago is always in my prayers.
I know that's right. Well, I do want to say, though, that as it relates to New York, I will not stop saying this, that I have been so completely impressed with Sabrina Ionescu. Like, I always thought that she was a star caliber player. Unfortunately, her career didn't begin like many people thought because she was facing injuries in the beginning. There was also the pandemic her rookie year. She had a change in coach. Like, there were other factors that played a role, but I love the way Sabrina has really taken charge of her career. She has really this offseason put the time and the work in. You're seeing it. She's in the MVP conversation. She's in the MIP conversation. Like, quite honestly, it has been refreshing. So when we talk about New York and the things that they have done and need to do to continue to be a solid team ready for the playoffs, which I already believe that they're ready for the playoffs. You know, the question was whether or not, you know, we are guaranteeing to see them go all the way through. And that I'm just not ready to say, because as you mentioned, Sharí, the talent around the league right now was just so heavy at the top. Crazy. But make no mistake, one of the reasons that they were able to be the first team to clinch is because of Sabrina Ionescu. Chick was not playing. And I love that for her.
Sabrina, and to your point, Terrika, she has so much of the pressure off of her because of Caitlin Clark. And the combination of her getting a full offseason, right, to just work on her game, improve her area inside the perimeter, because we already knew how great of a shooter she was before the season. But now that floater, she's got more of a package inside. That really opens up things for everybody else. But there's one player that I don't think is getting enough credit, and that's Leonie Fibish, right? The rookie. She might be rookie of the year. You know, she's on the best team. You know what I'm saying? She's on the best team. She has played really solid ball.
Don't do that. Don't you do that.
Defensively, her length.
So,
okay.
You said, hold on.
What she's able to do outside.
Rookie of the year. Rookie of the year. Chris. With everything that Caitlin and Angel are doing right now.
Sharí
Rookie of the year.
Sharí and Terrika. You should know me better by now.
Bye, Chris. Bye.